in the student union. You know, and yes, Mills College, first of all, as a woman's college, helped me figure out my path, but also just practically speaking, being a single mom of 2 wonderful kids on public assistance. I had 2 little boys, former survivor of domestic violence, no money. Some of my professors allowed me to bring those kids to class with me because I couldn't afford daycare. And my 2 sons remind me of their experiences here at Mills and how they caught tadpoles in the streams. That's right. How they were mad because I took statistics twice because I didn't like C's and I did it over so I could get a B. And they had to sit through 2 semesters of statistics. They have all of those memories of Mills. And that's why it's so important for me to be here tonight to share with you that I wouldn't be who I am without you and without Connor, without the Mills community, because it was a struggle. I majored in psychology here. And Dr. Kidd, I don't know if you remember Dr. Kidd. She was my psych professor. And during my last semester, I'll never forget this, I ran out, and I've never told this story before, but I ran out of money, totally. And I was talking to her, just, you know, saying, you know, I'm trying to figure out some things. And 2 weeks later, I get a call from the chaplain. And he said, I want to meet with you. I said, okay. I went in to the chaplain, met with him, and he was a Japanese American chaplain. What was his name? Roy Sano, yeah. And he gave me this check for $1,000. And he said the donor and the contributor who wanted me to give this to you wants to remain unknown. But this person wants you to finish college. I still don't know who that was, but I suspect it was Dr. Kidd. Yeah, and so I was able to graduate. Yep. I was the Black Student Union president, and it was really important during that period, especially to be BSU president. And I did invite the Honorable Shirley Chisholm here to Mills, right here in the Student Union. And I had a class, Dr. Fran Mullins, you remember Dr. Mullins? And we had an assignment. And this is, again, the beauty of the academic curriculum here at Mills. An assignment to, yes, do our academic work, but to do field work and work in a campaign. And then it was Muskie, McGovern, and Humphrey running. Oh, yeah. I told Dr. Mullins, flunk me. Never flunked a class in my life, but flunked me. Because I wasn't gonna work in those guys' campaigns because they weren't speaking to the issues that I thought were important. That was child care. I was against the Vietnam War. That was, it was low income, poor, a black woman. You know, I didn't hear anything resonating with those guys, so I just said, flunk me. Now, mind you, I was a community worker with the Black Panther Party, so I wasn't apathetic. I mean, I understood what inequality was all about and what politics was all about, but I purposely did not register to vote, like so many young people these days, because I didn't think the two-party system was relevant for me. So fast forward, Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm came, and in her speech she said she was running for president. I said, what? You know the media, how the media does us, especially black women, if you're following the media now, what I'm doing. But she came and said she was running for president. I went up after her speech. She spoke fluent Spanish, first of all. She was against the Vietnam War. I don't know if you know this, but she was one of the first board members of NARA, the Abortion Rights League, okay? A lot of people don't know that. She was very pro-reproductive freedom, pro-choice. Again, spoke fluent Spanish, against the war. She was an educator. I mean, she was like everything I thought a presidential candidate should be. And she would talk about forming coalitions with women, with people of color, with multiracial progressive coalition. She wanted everyone. It wasn't only she was a candidate for the African American community, she said she was a candidate for women. She was a candidate for everybody because she knew and she had a vision of coalition politics, and the coalitions that she could put together could change the country and change the world. And so I went and talked to her afterwards right here, and she told her I had bought this class I was about to flunk, and she took me to task. She first asked me if I was registered to vote. I said, nah, forget that. Then she said, well, little girl, I mean, she called me a little girl, until the day she died. I mean, I was in touch with her a couple of weeks before she passed away, and she was still calling me little girl. So I said, okay, I'll go back to my class, I'll register and figure out how to get involved in your campaign. And she thanked me, she was really happy. So I went back to my class, talked to Dr. Mullins, asked her what to do and how to get going. Now I found a candidate I could work for. She said, well, that's gonna be up to you. That's part of the coursework. You gotta figure all that out. So bottom line, Sandy Gaines was the student body president. Where's Sandy? She's not here tonight.
She's not here.
Sandy was student body president. Wilson Miles Jr. was the student at Laney, and Sandre Swanson. Together, we ended up organizing really her Northern California primary out of my course right here at Mills College. I got an A in the class, because I was gonna flunk, right? I registered to vote, and I went on to Miami as a Shirley Chisholm delegate. So it all started, so that's how it happened. That's how it happened. Now, another moment here for me to remind you of, those of you in my class, is, you know, I was pretty militant and still am, but I was determined that there was going to be some equity for black students. And so as a BSU president, I said, you know, we had J-term. Remember J-term?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All over the world, students could go, never to Africa. So I said, what the heck is this about? How come black students, if we want to go to Africa, we can go to Africa, or any student? So I went to, yeah, you remember that, huh? And Dr. Wirt was the president.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, first, let's see, my English teacher, Dr. Pope. Dr. Pope said, Dr. Pope, right? Because we had to have a course credentialed for students to go abroad. So there was a lot of pushback from the administration because it's like, oh, all you black students don't have any money. So, okay, well, if you say so, but I bet you're not gonna be able to raise the money or get the money, and I bet you won't get a course certified. So I went to Dr. Pope. She said, yeah, I'll do this. I'll do the course, and we'll certify you. So then I went to Dr. Wirt. Well, okay. Fine, we got the course certified. I mean, this was a struggle then. So how the school's not gonna pay for any of these students to go. And you know, all y'all on scholarships or financial aid. So I said, okay. So I went to the community, talked to people, and I held fundraisers for students to go to Africa. Then I decided, well, where will we go? So I did my research, and it was Ghana, University of Lagos in Ghana. And then it was Cleo Overstreet and Mardell Shire, the late, who were unbelievable black women leaders. They said, look, we'll be because Mardell had been there during the independence of Ghana. We'll accompany the students as long as you get everything arranged at the university. I said, okay. So then students started signing up. They really wanted to go. And I raised enough money for about 16 students. And there was one student who did not I didn't raise enough money for one student. Mind you, no one knew I couldn't go because I was on welfare and I had 2 little kids and I didn't know what to do with these kids while I was gone. So no one knew I wasn't going. But I raised all this money for everyone in Candy. Remember Candy? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we needed a little bit more money. It went to about $700. Then that was a lot though. So I said, well, damn, this school has got to help one student at least. They ain't helping any more of these students. Excuse me how I talk. I'm home, right? And so I said, so I organized and went into Dr. Wirt's office. And I think Ike Tribble was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ike, yes.
I said, no, we're gonna get this $700 from this administration. They said, no. So I organized a sit-in. I don't know if you remember that sit-in. We sat in that hall for a couple of days. Finally, they just caved and said, okay, whatever you want. So I got that money and Candy was able to go to Ghana. But the importance of that is, gosh, racial and gender equity has always been so important to me. So even now, whenever I see these barriers and these systemic issues that keep women and that keep BIPOC people from moving forward, there's no way I can just sit back and let it happen and not say anything. So that was part of what I still am very idealistic, but every time I saw a problem here at Mills, I figured I better try to correct it, especially for students who were low income and students of color. A couple of other things. I had, fast forward to serving in Congress. No one had been, and Shirley Chisholm came out here to campaign for me when I ran for the California Assembly and Senate and Congress. But her legacy was not being really lifted up at all in Congress. So I remember I introduced a resolution one day honoring her, and she was still alive. And I had her on the phone back in the cloakroom. I said, look, Shirley, we're finally gonna honor you. And it was a big resolution, and she was so happy. But when she saw the vote, she said, Barbara, because Connie Morella, who's a Republican, she said, I always worked with Republicans too. She says, there's nobody on the floor, there are no Republicans. I said, Shirley, this is a day that we go in where we have suspension votes, where everything is sort of agreed to ahead of time, so you don't have to have members on the floor because we've agreed, and so the Republicans agreed. But she was really disturbed because there was only one Republican, again, Connie Morella from Maryland, speaking on her behalf. And so I said, now how, and she was really upset. I said, okay. Now let me think of how to show you that you did have friends on the Republican side. So when you have a suspension bill, you don't call a vote. So I got creative. I said, you know what? I'm gonna call a vote. Everybody was mad because they had to stay around another 15 minutes. So when members came to the floor, so I called for the vote. Every light, in the chamber, green, red, every light was green. I ran back to the chamber, I said, see, Shirley, everybody here remembers you and supports you, even Republicans, and she was really happy that we did that. And so fast forward to when she passed away, I went to the Postal Commission because I thought it was about time we had Shirley Chisholm on a stamp. I got a lot of pushback because they didn't tell me that the person had to be dead for like 10 years or whatever it was. I mean, it was like crazy. So I had to fight like you would not believe to get this stamp. Finally, and it had to be bipartisan. So finally I found, I won't say a fool, but he was something else. He was a black Republican who was really right-wing, totally antithetical to Barbara Lee in terms of his views. But I said, let me go to him. He needs something relevant to do. So I asked him, I said, look, maybe you can shine a little bit if you be my Republican author for the Shirley Chisholm stamp. And he jumped at it because I showed him her record and the whole bit. So I got Republicans and Democrats to support the establishment of the Shirley Chisholm stamp. And we unveiled it right here in the Student Union. And a couple of other things I'll just mention. I hope I'm not rambling. I'm telling you a few little stories from my time here and how it's influenced me to be who I am today. Because affirmative action was so important in terms of inclusion of students who never would have had a shot at a Mills education, university education. And so I was in the California legislature when Proposition 209 came down, and I went to the Board of Regents and spoke against it. And in the legislature and all, unfortunately it went to the ballot. We stopped it in the legislature, but it went to the ballot. And I share this because when you look at affirmative action and racial equity in our universities and our colleges around the state, you see very few, unfortunately, African Americans. And that's because of Prop 209. And so when you see the Supreme Court and these decisions ending affirmative action in these states. Unfortunately, it started in California. And I have to remind people, we have a lot of work to do here in California, because as beautiful and as wonderful as this Golden State is, you talk about injustice and you talk about systemic issues. And it's really a shame and disgrace that California led the effort to end affirmative action. And so I know Mills must be dealing with it and how we recoup in terms of equity and making sure that BIPOC people, that's Black, Indigenous, people of color, if you don't, that's what we say these days, and a lot of people don't know what the BIPOC means. But sometimes in Congress I talk about BIPOC, so we talk about Black, Indigenous, people of color. That we have to make sure that access, like it was for me and Connie and all of us, is still here. Support, in terms of what's here now in Mills, and I just want to share this because I hope you get a chance to look at this. I voted against the authorization to use military force. 2001, I was the only one who did that, okay? And of course, death threats came like you would not believe against myself and my family. Still stuff pops up all the time. But that was the right vote because it was an overly broad authorization, 60 words, and it gave away Congress's authority to any president, Democrat or Republican. It's been used 20, 25 times, not related to 9/11, even for domestic spying here in the United States. So, fast forward, the Congress has caught up with the country. And for the last 3 years, I've been able to actually repeal that in the House with Republican support. Never got it through the Senate, now on the Iraq authorization, so it's back in the House now. But you know who I'm working with? I hate to even tell you, to repeal that. Matt Gaetz, Chip Roy. But we're gonna get it done. But the point is we have to find common ground, even with people who are our adversaries. So that's one common ground I have with them. I was able to get President Bush to sign all of my global AIDS initiatives, and that was bipartisan. We've saved over 25 million lives because I was able to find common ground with him. Was able to pass all of the COVID relief money targeted to medically underserved communities because I had common ground with some of my Republican colleagues. We saved millions of lives because we did that. And also, I was able to, and you may not even know this, the National American Women's Coin Program. I worked on this for 7 years when Rosie Rios was our treasurer from the Bay Area. Finally got Republicans to go along with establishing the American Women's Coin Program, because women have never been on a coin. So now we have women, 5 new women each year on 25-cent quarters. So if your financial institution does not have these quarters, demand them. The first woman, though, we rolled it out last year was with Dr. Maya Angelou. And so we have many women from a variety of backgrounds, a couple of lesbian women, Latina, Native American. We have AAPI women, you name it. So look it up if you don't know about it, and tell your financial institutions to get you these women's coins, because it's really, these women coins, because it's really important that they circulate. And if people don't know about them, the banks aren't gonna get them, but I want you all to know that. And so here at Mills, I'm really proud of the chair in my name. I don't know who is the chair these days, but I'll find out. But I hope that it continues and that it really does provide an opportunity for women to go into public policy and politics and really find a path to public service, because we need young women to change this world, because it's crumbling. The climate is burning, the planet is burning, we're in a climate emergency. All of what we know is happening. We need people who come through Mills, especially women who come through Mills, to take up this baton and run with it. If you want to see back to the AUMF, if you want to see and know about what happened during the 2001 craziness with me, I have identified Mills as the institution that's holding 60,000 emails, letters, cards, all the hate stuff that came to me, I've given it to Mills, but all the good stuff. President Nelson Mandela, Coretta Scott King, Bishop Tutu. There were so many people around the world who said, Barbara, that was the right vote. So all those papers are housed here at Mills. And I hope, that you take time, whoever's interested in this stuff, to really read through some of them, because what you will see is that a lot of people don't understand what democracy really means. And central to our democracy is the right to dissent. And these hate calls and these death threats were all about you're unpatriotic, you're a traitor, you don't understand. And my dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he was retired 25 years. He's the first person who called me and told me that was the right vote. So I share that with you because it's important for the Mills community to understand and know what was taking place, because I want academics, especially and students, to really think about and look at the psychology of people, the clarity or lack thereof of what democracy really means. And even when we're under a national security threat, we cannot allow our democracy and the central tenets of our democracy to erode. And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened right after 9/11. So if any of you are interested, I hope that you'll have a chance to kind of go in there and do the research and check it out. But anyway, I'm really glad to be home, and thank you all again very much.